Hello everyone, so during this video we'll be fixing, well, the small town that is in my basement, getting prepped for some more animations. Unfortunately, things were attacked by Catzilla, as you can clearly see, so we're gonna restore things to, well, a little better than new, so hope you enjoy the video.
Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well, and thank you for tuning into Moose Motion. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed the content, comment below what you think, share with your friends, and perhaps consider subscribing if you're new, and be sure you have your post notifications turned on so you don't miss any of the new content. Anyway, thank you for your support, it's highly appreciated.
So this is one of the sets I built a few years ago for my early stop motion endeavors involving a lot of the clay cars I like to build. Now, unfortunately, it's been long due for a restoration, and my cats, unfortunately, which I'm going to call Catzilla for this video purpose, have decided that it looked like a lot of fun to basically be a bunch of kaijus and destroy the place, so I've had to install a door in my basement, and so time to restore the old set so that way it doesn't look exactly like a bunch of disorganized pieces of Lego and moss and other things everywhere. So, time to restore this thing so it looks just as good and reset the set so it looks like it's new, if not better. Now, after removing all the old moss, which the cats were doing some rather unspeakable things to, which I will just definitely kind of neglect to mention, I was watching some other creatives on YouTube and, well, kind of learned about some tricks for dirt and stuff like that, because I always had some problems with boiling effect. For those of you who are unfamiliar with stop motion terms, a boiling effect is where you get basically unwanted movement out of a certain object on set and doesn't necessarily look natural, and it happened a lot with the moss as well as the dirt in particular. So that's also one of the reasons I wanted to get rid of the moss, is to avoid unwanted boiling effect, especially when the cars go by with all the smoke, because it generally has a problem with interacting with the moss and then sticking to it, as well as the dirt. Now, the idea behind putting glue on the dirt is actually a fairly good idea, and I kind of just went that I never really thought about it earlier. And basically all you have to do is put a nice layer of glue and then put a little bit of dirt on top of it, although generally speaking a lot of people are trying to avoid getting dirt into glue, but in this case we want the dirt not to move anywhere, and it's a fairly easy and simple means of doing it. And as long as you're not concerned about ruining the surface, and well, this surface is technically made for ruining, so to speak, or building a set on, so it doesn't really matter what I do with it too much. There's still quite an undeveloped real estate, so to speak, so some of the stuff isn't exactly in a permanent state, because this is kind of a work in progress, obviously, and, well, there's a whole other half that I still have to get some props for. Now, the dirt offers a few different advantages, especially over the moss. It looks a lot more natural and a little bit more real. However, it's another benefit too. It's a lot cheaper, so to speak. You can kind of just source this outside in the great outdoors, and, well, basically, if you're trying to implement reality, why not use reality itself to make it look that much more realistic? However, there's one thing I did do off camera that I neglected to show because I figured it would be a little bit boring in the footage and just do it over in the commentary. You're basically going to want to actually like shift the dirt and use the finer stuff, because you've those giant little, or well, not giant, but little pebbles and things like that will become giant massive boulders and not exactly look appropriate, not to mention it won't exactly glue to the surface nearly as well. So you're going to want to shift it and make sure you use some more fine dirt, so to speak. Except for the case of the little dozer here, we're going to make it actually do some work. Now we're going to move on to the background, which is probably not so important in the long run because it's not really going to be ever a main focal point. However, when you obviously missing certain details on the set, it sticks out like a sore thumb, so it's best to just kind of cover from all angles. That way you're not trying to fight things and, well, fight with a camera angle to make sure that your set looks good and the doll looks good and everything else, and you have room to work. So it's better to just kind of make sure everything is, well, set proper, pun intended. And this was one of the parts that was always kind of slacking, for, well, lack of a better term, in the set process. So it always kind of did look a little off, and unfortunately this is where the cats probably had the most heydays, so I'm gonna make sure that, yeah, it's actually looking half decent, so maybe I can have the Skyline coming running down off the actual bridge and utilize this part of the set a little bit more than I have. Now this is a good section of the set to actually use moss to cover up those ugly blank pieces of wood, because obviously that doesn't look natural whatsoever. Plus, it being in the background, it won't be subject to boiling effect when the smoke or car passes by. Now, when I'm making this little beach section here, obviously I didn't use any glue for the dirt because I'm not too concerned about it, because obviously there's a bridge over top and it's going to be in the background, so obviously there's going to be no immediate reaction with anything. Therefore, At this particular point, there's no need to be putting glue on it because this is kind of reaching the edge of the actual set that I have built for now. So obviously, I'm not entirely sure what things will be looking like in the future. So we're just going to kind of have things temporarily, well, laid there for now because it shouldn't be affected by the cars coming by at this particular point, given that, well, there's a bridge and all. Now it's time to reorganize the parking lot, which had a bunch of mini cars in it that Catzilla's really particularly found a lot of fun, unfortunately. So that definitely needed a good reset, and there's a lot of things or details that were kind of missing that were also bothering me, so now is a good opportunity to go over those as well. Such as the little housing arrangement back here, which definitely was kind of just haphazardly thrown together towards the end because I knew it was never really going to be seen too much. However, there's been a few incidents where it has been a little bit more visible than I would like to admit, so it's time to basically make sure all angles are covered. Down to the small space in between the lanes where the cars go by because, well, that's actually going to be probably seen quite a bit, and it's best to make sure that that part looks actually realistic. Now it's time to step up the parking lot details by adding some actual parking stalls. Painting those in definitely was an idea I had in the past, but I just kind of figured that I was maybe going to turn this into something else. But I figured, well, if I ever do, I can always just paint over the stuff anyway, and it looks a lot better than it did before, especially when you go into the backdrop. It actually looks like a legitimate parking lot. Now it's time to actually glue this mountain together because, well, before it was just kind of held together with plasticine, and just a little bit of hot glue will make a big difference. Now, onto the main strip of town. Now, surprisingly, this is a part that was relatively unscathed by the Catzilla attack, which I kind of find surprising. There was a decent amount of props for them to actually play with in there, but oh well, it still needs a fairly decent cleanup because, well, there's a lot of other little bits and pieces from moss and other various, well, projects in the past that just kind of made it look a lot dirtier than it once was. And while it's all taken apart, we may as well cover up some of those other details that were a little neglected in the past and make it look a little bit more legitimate. Such as doing our dirt and glue trick in between the cracks in between the grass and the actual lanes, as well as adding just a little bit of bush as shrubbery in between the, well, construction site and the actual, well, housing estate. That way there's no hard line from the actual grass mat because it looks rather awkward because there's really no straight lines in nature, and that's usually a good rule to abide by when you're building these types of things. Now onto the before and after shots. Now before I leave you to enjoy the scenery of the small town that I have created here, I will leave you one quick recommendation if you'd like to get a shout out in the next how-to video. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled for Milton the Moose, and if you timestamp correctly when he shows up, you will get, well, a shout out in the next how-to video. And well, if you've made it this far, I'll give you a little hint, he's already showed up. And well, there's no shout outs in this video because the last two videos of the Therizinosaurus, no one was able to find him. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to let me know by leaving a thumbs up or a comment in the comment section below. And if you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss up the new upcoming animations. I'm going to try to do one for Monday because, well, it's Thanksgiving here up in Canada, and I would like to play around with this turkey and a Therizinosaurus because I think it would be rather humorous. Anyway, I will leave you to enjoy the scenery for the last little bit here. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end of the video. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the content, comment below what you think, share with your friends, and perhaps consider subscribing if you're new. Anyway, that's enough from me. Till next time, take it easy.